As Britain's referendum enters its final days, polls show that it now air down to the wire because polls are so fucking trustworthy. In fact, this picture I surreptitiously photographed at me local Smith implies that it's the undecided voters who will decide. That's right. The fate of this referendum rests on the people who have no idea what the right answer is. But it's a referendum, so we already knew that, didn't we? So, which am I supposed to vote for? Let's look at the arguments and see which is more convincing. The Leave campaign have some very impressive key maps. In Turkey joined the EU. Hold on, were those dragon noises? Oh, that explains it. I was operating under the assumption that immigrants were humans who wanted to work in our country doing stuff that we don't know to keep our farming economy alive. I didn't realize they still had dragons in Poland. I didn't realize The Witcher was a documentary. Every week, the United Kingdom sends £350 million of taxpayers' money to the EU. That's the cost of a fully staffed, brand new hospital. The Leave campaign has really liked this claim. I mean, the EU video literally shows a flock of money birds literally transforming into a hospital. But would that happen? Now, I might be wrong here, but I am pretty sure this is funded by a budget made up by these things called taxes. From this thing people have called income. The net cost of our membership is around £6 3 billion a year, or 0.3 of £1 865 trillion. I accidentally said billion when I recorded this line before. Let's say we take all of that and throw it at things. Great, but if leaving impacts aura by more than 0.3, and remember, we make 13 of our from selling stuff to the EU there, so less tax money to go towards this, or anything else for that matter. And some economists are predicting the impact may be around 620 times that. This image isn't a visual metaphor. This is literally what we gonna have to wish happens once we leave. Every morning, you wake up and pray for the money birds to save them. And every day, they all fly to the Cayman Islands instead. But maybe thence would be better off anyway. After all, there'll all be less dragonsy mean migrants coming to abuse the state for benefits, which would leave more money for this. Oh yeah, all those young, able-bodied workers willing to travel to another country to work. Famously, people who need thence. But the EU has so many regulations. They even regulate cabbages. It's not like you put cabbages in your fucking mouth. They even regulate pillowcases. You know, the things that used to kill people because the chemicals they treat them with were toxic. We need to cut all this red tape before it saves too many lives. It's putting too much strain on them, having all these living people walking around. Also, hey, wait a second. Even if we save money by not being an EU member, don't we still have to comply with their regulations to sell things to them? And want everything we buy from them still deal with their regulations? And don't countries that currently make deals end up spending as much on tariffs as they would on proper EU membership, but without having any input whatsoever on the actual EU decisions that still affect them? But don't worry. I am sure we can get a better deal than Norway, Iceland, and Switzerland. The United Kingdom is just too good to be ignored. We re-3 off the US market, and the EU is. a lot of our market. But trust me, we have the upper hand. After all, France really wants to buy cake from us. I am proud to say we export cake in growing quantities of particularly dense and glutinous kind of chocolate cake. We export from Walthamstow to France. They love our cake in France. Well, that's settled then. But what would make staying any better than leaving? What are the arguments for remain? Cameron promises that we can get better deals within the EU already because this guy, who can't even answer a straight question about whether he'd veto Turkey's entry into the EU, this guy can be trusted to argue our case to the EU. And the leader of your campaign, Lord Rose, the former head of Marks and Spencer's, gave evidence and said the price of labour will frankly go up if we leave the EU. So people will be better off if we leave the EU. Well, that is what the overwhelming majority of experts all say. He's your leader. He's your leader. If we leave, you see the economy suffer. Hold on, did you just see that? Cameron's chief thinky man thinks Brexit would be bad for the economy because people would have to pay their workers more. Oh yeah, I forgot. It's the Tory party where people having more money to spend on goods and services is a bad thing, because most of their backers are the people who would have to pay people better. Sorry, why did he say this? Is it untrue? If you actually look at the full context of what he said, it's much more complicated. It's not. I have it here, if you want me to. I can read it to you. If free movement were to end following Brexit, is it not reasonable to suppose we could see increases in wages for low-skilled workers in the UK? Lord Rose, well, if you are short of labour, the price will, frankly, go up, so yes. But then he goes on to say a whole lot of other things. That's not it. Oh, he say, yeah, this guy will convince Brussels to see things our way. Yeah, great. At me office, I sit 2 yards away from the cabinet room where Winston Churchill decided in May 1940 to fight on against Hitler, but he didn't quit. He didn't quit on Europe. He didn't quit on European. Oh, he's just like Churchill. Oh, look at his little face. Look at his little face. In any case, I don't trust remaining under a Tory government that so far tried to privatize all schools and hamstring them. Half of them are now pretending to want to save by altering junior doctors' contracts and going on record as wanting to privatize the whole thing. If the man who came up with this shitty budget wants us to stay in, that's definitely a bad idea. Well, a bunch of banks and economic groups have said in their estimation that leaving would be a bad idea, but we shouldn't trust experts. I think the people in this country have had enough of experts with organizations from acronyms. The people in this country have had enough of experts. What do you mean by that? Organizations with acronyms saying that they know what? Yeah, why would you trust people who know what? Okay, no. No, I'm not going to be sarcastic here. People have made fun of that statement enough already, and I think Gov, despite being the worst man in the world, and I hate him, has a point here. Her Majesty the Queen asked the economists, how come you guys didn't see this thing coming? And then the British Academy put forward this, got all together, all these economists, and they came up with this fabulous letter to Her Majesty. It said, well, many dedicated people, intelligent, smart, spent their lives working on aspects of this thing very, very seriously, but the one thing we missed was systemic risk. And you say, what? All these groups and economists. Did they predict the financial crash? Did they see that coming? No, none of them did. None of them saw it coming. So in a way, .gov is still wrong. We haven't had enough of experts. We don't have any experts. Besides, if Cameron thinks leaving is so bad, why'd he decide to have a referendum? UKIP wouldn't have given us one. If you support a Remain campaign so passionately, yeah, give people an option for you referendum. Why give them an option to leave? Well, let's be fair. Cameron is too stupid. He must have been well aware that a good deal of his camp wanted to leave the Union and a good deal wanted to remain. To leave the Union, though do whoa, oh, If Cameron had taken a firm stance in either direction during the election, he could have torn his party in half. The promise of a referendum allowed him to pass this party-wide instability off to a later date in the hopes that it would solve itself. So now we're in a situation where the party in power, whose leaders have been best friends in secret, weird, pighead, fucky clubs for decades, still can't agree on fundamental decisions. Cameron could have tried to sort this out years ago, utilizing the leadership that our elected leaders are supposed to exhibit. But why risk solving disagreements and contradictions within his own party when he has an election to win? Under a representative democratic system, the majority of people haven't had to think about this stuff for a long time. It stands to reason that they don't know enough to make these decisions. At the very least, I don't. Have you seen me videos? I'm an idiot. But here Cameron is admitting that he doesn't have any idea either. In a way, the greatest criticism of representative democracy, that it shelters people from having to understand economics and politics because someone else is doing the thinking for them, has come home to roost. Now even our leaders have no fucking idea. So in the face of all of this, which should we vote in the referendum? No, I'm really asking, which should we vote? Now, personally, I would vote to dig a really big hole and just push the Tory party into it, but that wasn't on me polling card. I can only assume mine was a misprint. But in the case of there really only being these two decisions, I can't decide between them. So EV decided to be democratic. Leave a comment telling me whether to vote in or out, and I'll tally them up before I head to the voting booth on Thursday. That's right. You can vote on me vote. That's double democracy. And just like in a real democratic system, I am open to massive anonymous donations telling me to ignore the will of the electorate. I hope having other people decide me vote for me isn't illegal. I haven't actually checked. It sounds like it should be, at least. In any case, let me know what you think in the comments. Should we answer to Brussels with their needless regulations on lawnmowers? Or is legislating electric monstrosities full of spinning blades a thing that probably should happen in our society? Is immigration a burden on them? Or do immigrants bring more money to Britain and end up less likely to even need it? And how many hospitals are we going to build with the money we save leaving? And does France really love our cake enough to give us a good trade deal? I guess I'll let you decide. Pomp and circumstance, thanks for watching, fellow plebs. This week I'd like to thank Jason Walter, Jeffrey Laddie, hope they re not the same person, and Ivy got this list wrong, Jenny Engel, John Neen, Kevin Keepy, Mads Johansson, Max Scher, and Merxenophobe.